Hey guys, welcome back to LoopDev for another tutorial on HTML5 for beginners. If you're new and haven't watched the first parts of this series, I highly recommend that you do that first and continue with part 5. So today we'll be talking about BR, pre and code elements in HTML. We will look at what are these semantic elements, where and when we can use them in our websites or web pages. So first off, BR element. In HTML, BR is considered a self-closing element, which means that there is no closing tag for a BR element. If we do not have a closing tag for an element, then there is no content that goes with that element. So BR is merely used for the purpose of producing a line break in a text, and it is used to include poems or addresses in our web page where we do require a line break in that text. So to the right side, we can see the basic syntax of BR element. So it's just declared with BR and that's it, there is no closing tag. With that being said, let's look at how it's implemented in a web page. So here in this example, I want to display or include this poem in my web page. However, when I look at the browser, all these extra or the new lines are completely ignored by the browser. Well, you may think, why is that? That's because when the browser receives our HTML file, it will just process everything and creates a DOM or document object model. Within that, it will just try to fix every mistake that we have got in our HTML file. For example, in here right now, this is not allowed in HTML by default. You cannot have a new line and have it to show up in the browser. So the browser thinks that that's a mistake, so I'll just remove it and I'll just display it as just one paragraph. But in this case, we want to have the line breaks. So to instruct the browser to actually do that for us, we have to include the BR elements at the end of each of these verses. So I'll just include that, and when I save this, automatically we can see that the browser now understands that at the end of each of those verses there is a line break. So I'll just add that for us, and now we have got a good looking form in our web page. With that being said, let's now look at pre-element in HTML. So pre-element is used to represent a pre-formatted text, meaning that when the browser receives our HTML file, it does not process anything. It does not remove spaces, tabs, or new lines within a pre-element, because the browser is instructed that this text is already formatted, so you do not have to touch anything within that element. So which means that we have got whatever that we write in our HTML file, we'll just get the exact same clone in our web page. So that also means that we are telling the browser to preserve both line breaks and spaces for our content within the pre-element. So to the right side, we can see the basic syntax of a pre-element. So it is declared with the word pre, and then we have got the contents which shows up in the browser the way that we write it. With that being said, let's look at how it's done in action. So here in this example, I want to display this exact thing in my web page. So this is just a character that's pointing to a sentence that says, I love HTML tutorials. But the moment that I save it, automatically the browser thinks that this is not allowed, this is just a mistake. So there's an extra line here, so it removes that. There is space here, so we'll just remove that, and the same thing for all of that. So if we have got a user visiting our website, they would think that this is just complete nonsense. Like, what is this? It doesn't have any meaning. So to give it a better meaning, to portray the message that we want to convey to our users, we have to include this text within a pre-element. So let's do that. So the moment that I save it, automatically we can see that the browser just shows it the exact same way that we typed it in our HTML file. So with that being said, finally let's talk about code element. In HTML, we can use code element to represent a line or lines of computer code in our web page. So content of code element is formatted a little bit differently to a paragraph or just a normal text. And therefore, it makes it easier for a user to differentiate between the normal text and the line of computer code. Remember that code element by itself can represent only a single line of code. If you want to display more than a single line of code, then you should combine it with a pre-element to achieve this sort of outcome. Also, as always, we can definitely use CSS to bring any sort of visual changes to our code and make our content look prettier on our web page. To the right side, we can see the basic syntax of code element. So it's already defined with code, and we've got the content and then the closing tag. With that being said, let's look at how it's implemented in our web page. So in this example, I would just want to talk about the date function in JavaScript. So looking at the browser, we see that it's all looking just as part of a paragraph, and I cannot differentiate between a computer code, which is this, and rest of the paragraph. So to make the differentiation between the two, we have to include this computer code within the code element. So once I do that and save, so automatically we can see that date has a different font format compared to the rest of the paragraph. That is done only because we have included the date function within the code element. So we said that code element by itself represents only a single line of code. To display more than one line of code, we should nest it with pre-element. So here we have got the code element and it's embedded within a pre-element. And that's because we want to display more than one line of computer code in our web page. So the moment that I save it, automatically we can see that the browser shows the content exactly the way that we typed it here, and that's because it's embedded within a pre-element and the browser does not change anything when processing our HTML file. We also mentioned that with the use of CSS we can bring some sort of visual changes to our code element. So here, because we have got this extra space or indentation to the left side of our content, I don't like it. So I just want to bring this a little bit closer to the left side. So to do that, we can use the style attribute in our pre-element. And we use the tab size property of CSS to do that. So right now, I'm just going to set it to 4. So the moment that I save it, we can see that automatically this has shifted a little bit to the left side. So that was the tab size. Now we can also change the font color of this code element. How we can do that? Again, we use the style attribute this time in our code element, and we are using the color property, and this is the hex code for red color. So when we save it, automatically we can see that instead of black color, we have got a red color. So that's it for today, guys. Thank you for watching the video, and I hope you found this video helpful. And if you did, like the video and consider subscribing to the channel and stay tuned for future videos. As always, if you have got any questions, leave it out in the comment section below and I will answer them before the next tutorial.